One of the reasons that I started to pursue life insurance during a career change was because I had seen some of my friends' families go through deaths of the major money earners, the primary breadwinners of the family, the difference when they had life insurance and when they didn't. So I'm going to talk more about the personal side of things, but I'll talk a little bit about why first. This is why I wake up every day. So that's Christy, Joey. We have pictures again today, so I'll update that. And we love to travel, so that's Joey coming back from his first trip to St. Bart's, which is where Christy and I fell in love. And I don't know why he's blonde, because he's not blonde, but I think it's all the sun from that trip. So a lot of fun with family. And here's another part. So Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Right? He did a lot of punching, so he knows. But this is one of the things that life insurance takes care of. If people depend on you for your income, your family, and your spouse or your family and things like that, this is the punch in the face. Something can happen that will throw your plan off. And so life insurance, long-term care insurance, disability insurance, home and auto in Jason's world, in Lou's world, the commercial things. There are things that happen that aren't part of the plan, and that's how we help plan for them. So. You can click through a bunch here, but individuals and families and then businesses are the two major categories we do it with. Death benefit, this is what I'm going to focus on, protection for your family. Money from life insurance is tax-free, right? So you get $1 million, you get to keep that $1 million from a term policy or whatnot. It's typically for income replacement. So how much money did you make a year? You need that to go forward so that you don't get kicked out of your home in a foreclosure because you can't afford the mortgage anymore. So your kids can still go to college because you were funding a college plan, but now you don't have that income anymore. So there's all these different things, paying off debts, final expenses. There's other areas that we can do, but I'm going to focus on the family-based ones because that's the most important, and that's why I got into this business. There's also some living benefits of certain programs where even if you haven't passed away, you can access some of that benefit in advance. Yep, yeah. And I'm going to get back in the picture, apparently. This should be an X, I think. So business reasons, there's a lot of business reasons, and I'll, in one-to-ones, discuss that with you a little bit more, but in the 10-minute time frame, I'm not going to focus on as much. If somebody's buying or selling a business, or if they have key people that they want to, that if something happened to that person, the business would significantly suffer, top salespeople, top management, you can make sure that the business actually gets money if something does happen to them to hire somebody else. You can also use it as a golden handcuffs to retain those people, because if they leave your company, there's a benefit that their family or they personally wouldn't get. You can put things in place like that. We'll skip most of that today, though. Thank you. So there is an actual science to life insurance. Most of the time people get referred to me and they say my attorney or my brother or my advisor or whoever it is told me I need $500,000 of term or $1 million or whatever the number is. They come in with a preconceived notion because somebody told them that's exactly what they needed. And I always ask, are you very comfortable with that amount, or would you like to see what that will do for you and see if it's the correct amount for life insurance to do what you want it to do for your family if something were to happen to you? Most of the time they go, oh, I never really thought about that. I mean, $1 million is a lot of money, right? But it might be too much, and you might not need to pay that much in premiums, or it might be not enough, depending on your lifestyle, your expenses, your debts, to take care of your family if something was to happen to them. So step one, how much do you need? Step two, how long do you need it, right? There's no reason for you to have $2 million of permanent life insurance that's going to be very expensive, by the way, to cover a mortgage that's only got 20 years left on it, or to cover your kids' college funding when they're going to be graduated in 20 years, right? So then we'll also look and say, what's the most efficient way to meet that? Based on your budget, how long you need the life insurance, and why you need it, we're going to find the least expensive plan, which is typically a term insurance for most of what you're going to need to get you to the amount of coverage that you need within your budget. And then if there's extra money in the budget or you have other needs or other preferences, we'll look at that to change it. But ideally, we'll get you there as efficiently as possible. So the next one. So the what comes last. I didn't really relate it as much to Simon Sinek, but you start with why, you talk about how, and then you talk about what. Everybody should read that book. Start with why. I couldn't find the copy that I bought for the gift today, so I'm going to send that along with the gift card that I have to whoever wins the drawer prize, the raffle. But then what comes last? So term insurance versus permanent insurance. Most of the time we use term insurance, right? That means that for 20 years, I'm going to pay my premium. if I die, the insurance company is going to pay my family. That's going to cover most of everybody's needs. There's also permanent insurance. There's multiple types of that. It's a much more complex type of insurance. We break it down very simply and say if you want it to be there for the rest of your life because it's a personal preference, or if there's a need for it to be there for the rest of your life, we'll look at that as well. But for 99% of the times, especially for the young family, term insurance is the way to go. And for a young family, it's very inexpensive. Then there's different carriers and features. We can click through that. We do all this work for you, basically. We're going to make the recommendation. And then underwriting, if somebody has specific health issues, different carriers treat them differently. And it can mean a big difference in the cost. So this is a quick example for, say, me, young couple. I'm not that young anymore, I guess, but younger than some, older than others. So this would be my analysis. Final expenses, $15,000 to $25,000 to help with burial costs. Paying off mortgage and other credit card debts, car debts, things like that you would want to be. I don't assume that everybody wants this paid off. I ask that question. What would you like to see happen? And I'll advise them along the way. College for Joey. Figure $100,000 into an account would pay for some or all of his college, right? Safety reserves to give you the time that you need to cover your expenses so you can grieve and mourn without wondering where that next mortgage payment is going to come from. So that gives us the immediate need. $535,000 we could put into account would cover all the immediate need over the next year, which is kind of the time frame. You don't need to pay off the mortgage necessarily. You could put some money in an account to make the payments for a couple of years. But this was my personal look at it. Income, after taxes, how much do you take home? We'll usually take what you make and estimate about 60% of that, 70% of that. How much would need to go into an investment account, earning about 5% to pay you that amount for the rest of your life? That, in my case, would be around $1.4 million. I'm using rough numbers here and whatnot, but so total insurance need around $1.9 million. Subtract out current assets. I don't use retirement assets, but subtract out current assets. And then life insurance that you currently have. So right now I'm a little bit overinsured. If somebody doesn't have life insurance, they would need some in that scenario, right? So we tell the person, this is your need, a client, this is your need. To do everything that you said you wanted it to do, you need $1.9 million of life insurance. How do we get there? What's the most efficient way? Does that sound right to you? Does it sound like it's too much? Does it sound like it's not enough? That sort of thing, right? But this is the actual analysis. So next slide. How much will that need be in 20 years? Because a lot of insurance policies are 20-year term. Final expenses are the same, but say the mortgage has been paid down. College, he'd be graduated by then. Safety reserve the same. So the immediate need went from $500,000+ to less than $200,000. Income, we could keep that the same if we say it's not going to deplete, but remember, retirement's going to kick in at some point. Social Security, you can get into those 401ks. So that number is more optional at this point. We could say how much do you need to get 10 more years or until retirement. Back out current assets. We're going to estimate how much those will grow based on your saving and investments that you have. So the insurance need then for permanent, or at that 20-year point, would be $500,000, right? Next. 20-year term. This is how I got there. $1.4 million of 20-year term, which is around $600 a year. It's pretty cheap to get my family over $1 million, right? It's based on health and age. 30-year term, I also have, that covers the longer one, and it's convertible into a permanent policy. So when we get to that 20, 30-year point, I can make that permanent for me based on what's really happening in my life. But right now, it's a projection. For Christy, she's women are cheaper than men when it comes to, or less expensive, I'll say, when it comes to insurance premiums. Pardon me there. And so for her, the entire thing, was less than $600 a year. And then in the future, we'll look at something. Depending on what happens over the next 20 years, we would look at doing a permanent policy for our children down the road. But next. So great referrals. You can click through those there. Power partners are typical power partners, attorneys, CPAs, and recruiters HR. They see the insides of people's lives. Mortgage people, realtors, also in there. They see transitions. And then for clients, business owners, doctors of various kinds, newlyweds, which is what I went through right there. That's what Christy and I did as an analysis when we got married. People changing their jobs, buying a home, say within 10 years of retirement or so. Because there are different things we can do as you get close to retirement to maximize your retirement income using life insurance. So that's it for me. If you have any questions or want me to review your personal plans, do it for free in a one-to-one. Okay? Thanks so much.